Are you looking for an athletic scholarship? You're in the right place. This is the Recruit Me Athletic Scholarship Podcast, the longest running podcast on recruiting and athletic scholarships. We're here to help your family navigate the recruiting road all the way to an athletic scholarship. He's a recruiting expert and a dad of 2 college athletes. He has a wealth of experience to share. Here's Recruit Me CEO, Brent Hanks.
Welcome to episode 498 of the Athletic Scholarship Podcast, and part 2 of an interview with a mental training coach, Paige Tonz. Last week's episode 497, was part 1, and was the third time Paige has been a guest on the Athletic Scholarship Podcast. Go to the recruit-me.com website and listen to episode 212 and 276 to hear Paige's first 2 guest appearances. In all of these episodes, including this one, you will get tips on how mental preparation helps in athletic performance and athletic recruiting. Let's get into the second part of the interview with Paige Tonz.
I am heavily on social media, just sharing my story, sharing others that I've worked with, their stories and their testimonials, talking a lot about this process and the struggles and the good things that could come out of it. And that's how I get a lot of conversation with families. How this usually typically works is the parents typically reach out to me. Sometimes I have girls that are very they advocate for themselves and they start conversations with me, which is awesome. I always love that. But typically it's the parents that are the mom or dad that reaches out to me, and we just start to have, conversation, and I get to find out a little bit more about what they're experiencing, what their daughter is experiencing, and where I can help and support them. And then, sharing what I do and the program to see if it's a good fit. And then we go from there.
And I'm going to try to put all your links in my show notes, but give us your website and then give us all your social media contacts.
Yeah. So my social media, my Instagram is @PaigeTonz, just how my name is spelled. My maiden name is very uncommon. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else have my maiden name. So it's always easy to find. So if you see Paige Tonz, it's probably me. And then my website is also the same, www.PaigeTonz.com.
When somebody goes to your website, what are some of your descriptions, or give us some descriptions of some of the things that they will find on your website, and then some of the benefits of each of your programs?
Yeah. So right now I'm really solely focused on Unshakable. So that's the one thing that I'm doing. I used to have a lot of other things and avenues and things, but I'm kind of putting every ounce of energy into Unshakable. So that's the one thing I have going on, the one way I'm working with the girls currently. Of course, I oftentimes will do one-offs with teams, and I'll come out and do a workshop and things like that. But it typically leads to who are the girls that really want to work on their mental game inside Unshakable, my program, because I feel that's the greatest way to make transformation and learn and grow and get the results that they want, so that they can ultimately go and get the scholarships and play at the schools and conquer those goals and those dreams that they have.
What are a couple of techniques or pieces of information that you give in your Unshakable program?
Yeah. So a lot of the work that we do is really kind of my own story. We're shifting the way that we're thinking, and to keep it very simple and straightforward. It's going from the negative thoughts and the constant doubt and the fear and the worries and things like that are coming up for the girls. And how do we shift that to positive thoughts, right? I know it sounds kind of corny, but it's the simplest way to put it. It's how do we see it in a different perspective? How do we think about all the good things that could come out of it, the possibilities, and really truly telling themselves what they're capable of, what they want to believe, how they want to show up, instead of, the doom and gloom that tends to happen, those negative thoughts that tend to spiral and take over when we're playing. So that's the biggest thing. It's just really shifting the way that you're thinking. There's other things that help. We do a lot of visualization. We do a lot of routine work. So taking a deep breath to be able to slow down, visualizing what you want to happen. And when I say routines, before game, right before an at bat, after the game, like post game, like reflecting and learning whether the game was good or bad, like how to look at it in a constructive way that's going to help you moving forward. So a lot of routines with the different tools intertwined in those routines, if that makes sense.
Well, and softball, baseball, by definition, is a sport of not being successful. If you're a successful batter if you bat 300, which means you get 3 hits out of every 10. So that means 7 at bats don't go well, depending on how you look at it. Do you work with other sports? Because most other sports kind of have that same mentality. Basketball, golf. You don't always hit a great shot. Do you work with other sports with the girls?
So I do work with girls in other sports. It's funny, like in my business, I've kind of gone back and forth with it. At first, I started with just softball girls because that was where my background was. And that's who I was really kind of like reaching at first with some of my own stories and my own experiences. And then I had families who were reaching out. They're like, well, my daughter plays volleyball and she's struggling with this, or my daughter plays soccer and she's struggling with this. So then I started working with other athletes as well, not just softball. Primarily, like I worked with softball, added the other athletes. I really kind of speak to the softball athletes, but I still have girls that are other sports. And I've worked with soccer, volleyball, gymnasts. I've had girls who run track. I've basketball, like in all different sports and perspectives. I always tend to like lean into my softball examples, and then I'll just be like, okay, so like how can we apply this like here or there? But I definitely speak more to the softball girls, but if I do have other athletes, like it works for the other athletes as well.
Well, and many of the sports are team games, but when you're pitching, when you're in the box hitting, when you're shooting a free throw, hitting a golf ball, all eyes are on you. So that does take a little special mentality to be able to handle that pressure. And that's what you're working athletes through.
Yeah, definitely.
So you mentioned earlier that mental training and recruiting are pretty related now. So kind of go into that just a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in there, like we were talking about earlier, kind of like the recruiting process there's so many ups and downs. It's a really exciting time, but it can be a time where you have like a lot of rejection as well, and like how to handle that rejection, or how to handle when, the coaches that the teams that you're seeking out to play for, and like when those coaches aren't responding or they're not interested, that can be really tough. And you can kind of feel like that, like the girls feel like that equates to like their value, or the kind of player they are. And it doesn't. Like recruiting there's just so many different layers and things that go into the recruiting process. It might not just be like, your skill as a player. It could be like the timing and who they need and what they need and the money they have. There's like so many different things that go into it. So what I love about what I get to do with these girls in this process is just to like really like fill their cup up and remind them that they're valuable no matter what happens in this process, and no matter who chooses you and doesn't choose you, and knowing that their worth isn't determined by the recruiting process. Just helping them know that through this chapter and this experience for them, and helping them be confident through it all is what I think really puts them in the best opportunities and gets them to where they are meant to be at the end of this, that process. So that's something I'm really passionate about. Something else that I've started to include in what I do is like how to lean on your faith through this process as well. Something I wish I would have had. It's something I've had a lot of more growth in as an adult, and just seeing how it's helped me so much, and not like feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to do this all on my own. And that can be overwhelming and difficult, and knowing that like I can lean on my faith. I have God. He has a bigger purpose for me always. And sometimes my timing isn't what it should be. And like he has perfect timing, and just reminding the girls through that has also been kind of a piece of Unshakable, the program that I've created to help them know that they're not in this alone. They don't have to do it alone. They can lean on their faith. They can lean on something bigger than themselves. And of course, me like pouring into them, as well as the other girls who are in the program, like they get to be that inspiration to each other and, support one another through that. And they just know, like, it's really cool when I'm on a group call in my program and one girl hears another girl, and it's just like reminds them like, oh, like I'm not the only one like struggling. Or when something works, it's like, oh, like if I do that, like I could totally, like, it gives them hope. Like if I just focus on this or work on this could work for me too. So that's been really neat through this experience as well.
In the recruitment, in Recruit Me, we're asking kids to go out and put themselves out in front of a lot of schools because we try to cast our net widely. And that does, unfortunately, tend to be maybe some ghosting or rejections where somebody says, hey, you really can't play for us. And so we're asking 15, 16, 17-year-olds to put themselves out there and ask for some rejection. Because I used to be in the car business, and every no meant you're closer to a yes. And that's what we try to tell kids, say, hey, put yourself out there and you're going to find your right fit. And just like sports does, it kind of knocks you down a little bit. It's just how you pick back up. And that's where you come into play and trying to make them understand that putting yourself out there is the risk, and you got to figure out how to handle that, and everything hopefully will turn out well in the long run and either win a game or have a successful at bat or find the right fit college. So what you're doing, I think, is asking young adults to do hard things and teaching them how to handle that.
Totally. I love that perspective on it. That's a great way of thinking about it too. Like putting yourself out there and knowing how to handle it too.
Well, I know that you've got a couple kiddos running around probably someplace, and so we'll try to close this out. Give us a little piece of mental advice that maybe we haven't talked about, and maybe a little piece of a recruiting advice that you want to pass along to the families and the student athletes listening.
If like this is something that you like, if you're like listening to this and you're like, oh man, like I can totally relate to this as a parent, or for my daughter, for my student athlete. What I would encourage you to do is like, just go check out my Instagram. I always respond to my messages, my DMs in there. So if you have any questions, or if you are just like seeking out some more support, or just want to find out a little bit more about like how this works, that's like the best. Like I'm always an open book there. So reach out to me there. I can help and support or point you in the right direction through this process. I just know that, like, these girls work so hard physically, club and travel and things, like it's very demanding. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort, not just from the student athlete perspective, but for the parents too. Like you guys are, we're investing a lot of time and energy and money and all of these things. And I know parents just want to put their girls in their daughters in the best possible positions to succeed. And I just would love to be a part of that and help kind of put those pieces together and put that hard work physically. Adding that mental game a lot of times is like just that missing piece. And even if it's like a temporary amount of time where we're working on this, it could really help just make things click, if that makes sense. And knowing that they have those tools through the rest of, whether it's their sophomore, junior, senior, into college, like just knowing that they have that to be more prepared for what life throws at them is my goal. So I would love to hear from you, or like if parents have questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out.
I always say that college is 4 years to set you up for the next 40 years. And if you use your high school to kind of set up that 4 years of college, then hopefully that sets you up with a work ethic and some of the ideas that you might carry on through your business, your career, your family, your faith, and everything down the road. And so it's more than just playing 4 years of college someplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's not wait 5 years to get together again.
I know, right?
And
that's crazy.
We'll see what changes you have, and hopefully, like I said, I'll have all your contact information in the show note. We would just encourage anybody, any ladies out there that are looking for help with their mental game, and to try to help improve not only what they're doing now in high school, but how to kind of get prepared for college too. You kind of mentioned that earlier, to reach out to Paige and see if she can help you.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me. Always appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to Paige Tonz for her time and information. Go to PaigeTonz.com to get more helpful information and to contact Paige for her help. This was episode 498 of the Athletic Scholarship Podcast. We are close to an historic 500th episode that will hit on Tuesday, March 3rd. Mark your calendar or just like or subscribe to the Athletic Scholarship Podcast on your favorite podcast app. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.